Hi, everybody. Welcome back to our channel. Welcome if you have just found us. Our channel is The Journey Within with Christopher Mack. I'm Wanda Webster. This is based on our book, The Journey Within. Today we're going to talk, we have a whole chapter on the shootout at OK-Corral, which is really, if you find yourself getting into a lot of arguments, a lot of confrontations with people. What is that about? It's complex. There's a number of reasons for that, so we'll touch upon some of those things today. Christopher, you used to lead a lot of groups in LA, and routinely, almost every night, you would say, you'd get into some sort of a shootout with somebody in the audience, right? That was challenging you. You didn't know what you were talking about, that you can't tell them what to do, things like that. You want to?
Well, it wasn't. It wasn't necessarily. I didn't know what I was talking about, but in a shootout, whatever you're saying doesn't apply to me. However, you have to remember there are certain indicators that says, yeah, it pretty much does apply to you. So,
right.
And you're trying to help somebody to see it. It's just as simple as somebody telling you not to say nothing to them because they want to have a beer on their birthday. But they're supposed to be in a program of abstinence, which means that there is no alcohol or drugs involved in that program that they're in. And so in order to continue to do, I was walking down the street one day and a guy whom I seen, he's in the group, he's in the program, and I was looking at him and he said, "Don't say nothing." And I said, "What do you mean don't say nothing?" He said, "You know I don't drink." But I hadn't said anything, but I did see the beer in his hand. He already understood that he was in a program. And so in that program, he was not supposed to be drinking, and I saw him drinking, but he was telling me he didn't drink. And then he went on with a barrage of statements that justify why he could drink and why he should be drinking, even though he was at risk of losing his freedom by being incarcerated because he wasn't following the program. So he came out with a barrage of justification. It's my birthday. I don't drink. I said, I've had 3 beers, but that's all I've had. And anyway, it's not the alcohol.
So I assume you did not get in a shootout that day.
Yeah. Well,
you didn't engage.
Yeah, I did engage. When he told me don't say nothing, okay. I mean that's grounds for me to pull my 6-shooter out and just start letting him have it. What do you mean? I said, you're supposed to be doing so, X, Y, Z. Right. And you're putting yourself at risk. And usually when you're in a shootout, you're trying to tell somebody something for their own good. And they come up with a justification of why it should be the way that they want it to be. And life's reality doesn't show it that way.
So you found that resentment is the #1 culprit with people.
Resentment is anger and bitterness. It's just like you said, it's complex, but it's part of the problem of letting go of those things that we have in us.
Shall I read this short paragraph from our book?
Sure, because it has to do with that.
Well, I hope it does. Memories demand your attention, like a neglected, needy child, always pulling at your sleeve. Memories can be stuffed for only so long. Then they will start creeping up on you, only to have you push them away again and again. But then physical symptoms can appear out of nowhere. It's as if your inner child is saying, "Pay attention to me." Usually when the pain or symptoms become too much to ignore, we start to pay attention. But we might not know how to connect all the dots from the emotional trauma to the physical pain and disease happening in the body. We might not realize that our panic attacks are related to years of unprocessed emotions.
And that's what it is. So at some times when we do get in a shoot out with somebody, it's their belief system that they feel is under attack. And why not, why should anybody tell me, what I should be doing and how I should be doing it? The circumstances and the situations that you're in, because if you have, and here's the point. We don't know sometimes why we do the things we do, because we have traumas that have been suppressed ever since we were 4 or 5 years old. And so we don't know that those are sending, messages of behavior that turn into behaviors, that turn into beliefs. And we don't know that they're doing it. And that's why sometimes you have to ask the question. That sometimes you have to go inside and go deeper and see how those things are connected. So when people start to have a shootout, they're just reacting to some situation that occurred in their life. And so it's, as a facilitator, it was up to me to not get involved in the shootout in some sense, but to maintain some perspective so that we wouldn't get lost in somebody's story. Because when you get caught up in shootouts, you miss the point. And so that's why when we say the shootout at the OK-Corral sometimes become a complex story for the individual. And that's why when I first started talking about it, I said, this can go all over the place, because those indicators or those things that cause us to react are sometimes hidden and buried.
And sometimes it's passive aggressiveness, but underneath that is still that resentment and bitterness and anger.
Right.
It might show up as nice. What is that, naughty nice or whatever they call it?
Or it shows up as look, I'm clever. Well,
Right.
if you're leading a group, you can lose the group. So
right. You can get hijacked.
you can lose the group, and it won't be to anybody's benefit. And so you have to maintain a way in order to stop it. And usually we knew it was a shootout. We'd call it as it was, and we take it and go to the benefit. What's the benefit of what we're saying to? What is the benefit of the journey within? What's the benefit of looking inside of myself? What's the benefit? I get a chance to be relieved of stress and pressures that I never knew were just lurking underneath my reality or my life, and things that don't serve a purpose today just become a part of the mechanism to react. And so now I'm reacting for something that happened to me years ago.
Right.
And so it's always worth the journey to investigate, because those are just incidents. Those are situations. I can use them for the good, or I can continue to let them to terrorize my life.
Right. Okay. Anything you want to wrap up today for people?
I was listening to Wanda, so I was getting into a shootout, so we had to redo this one, right? And so I became the culprit, because I wanted to, I said, this is why this is this way. But sitting back and being able to take suggestions becomes part of not being a gunslinger. Becomes part of not being in a shootout, because
You're a good guy today.
Wait a minute, maybe she has a point there. And, I trust her because she's a very, very honest and forthright person, and anything she does not mean me any harm. So I can also look at that. So when do I stop hurting myself, and when do I become the benefactor or the benevolent one? To me,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we have to be good to ourselves. Be good to yourself because it's worth it. You're worth it. And it's okay to love you.
Beautiful. Thank you.